So some little time back, we had the freedom of Julian Assange. Of course, that was late July last year, very important. And I don't really believe that there was enough analysis on the protest movement and how people like our group all over the world assisted in freeing Julian, and I think we need to revisit some of it. And there are even things we can improve for the future, and I think that's important. So one thing I note was that we actually have at the moment, and we had with Julian, a KPI. A KPI, of course, is a key performance indicator. So the picture of Julian there was like our KPI. We had to free Julian. Now we have other KPIs. We have no extradition for Dan Duggan, and we have free David McBride as well. Now these, I say KPIs because really, when you think about it, Julian was going to die in that prison, and us releasing him showed us, or showed the international Assange movement, that we had managed to hit our KPIs collectively all around the world by having Julian released. We now have Dan Duggan, we now have David McBride, who are in jail. Their lives are in danger. Okay, so this is really important. So I have said for a long, long time, and you know, people didn't always listen to me, that it would be really good if, you know, the Assange movement could have a group collectively of people which sit down, organise leaflets. What sort of leaflets should all these worldwide groups be giving out? What should the leaflets say? What should, you know, we wrote to rank and file people, right, in political parties, one in particular. And, you know, again, what should such letters say? What should official letters to parliamentarians say? And I suggested some kind of a lobby group, maybe lobby's the wrong word, but some kind of a group where all the people in the Assange movement could sit down and organise this, so we were even more organised than we were. We had leaflets approved from high up, we had, you know, groups sending off to local political branches and so on. And, you know, I mean, to actually get that out of people, sure, we did it in our own group, we managed to do it in our own group, but to get that out of people higher up the ladder was near on impossible, you know. It really was, it just was. And I do note it's very important. When Julian was released, I saw on the internet, I saw people talking about Dan Duggan and David McBride and Richard Boyle, right? Dan Duggan and David McBride are ever so slightly more important because they're in jail, and like Julian, their lives are at risk, they may die. They're the important ones. Hitting those KPIs and getting them out of jail is vitally important. But I would like to think, within the realms of sanity, that the people who, in the Assange movement, in various places, Canberra and other places, who've sat outside important MP's office and protested about Richard Boyle, about Dan Duggan, about David McBride, I would hope that we could all sort of sit down together and have some kind of organised gathering where we organise leaflets, we organise stuff for rank and file political people, and as a group, collectively, with various states combined, we sit down and have an internet group and do all this. It's all very well to have people doing it from the perspective of their own political party and all that, but that gets submerged with other things, with other policies and things they're doing. We're not a political group or a political party. We're very specifically within the realms of, you know, what we think that maybe Julian Assange would have wanted. And I do note that his wife Stella had visited Dan Duggan's wife. I also note that John Shipton, Julian's dad, had visited David McBride in jail. So these are things that are close to the heart of people within the Assange movement. We are sometimes at risk, you know. ages ago, 2020, 2021, we kind of split down the middle because there were people who were vaxxers and anti-vaxxers and all arguing, and we couldn't really be in one group. All that's madness, because that's not what we're here for. It never was, you know. We have to, I think with these other people, we should get together, start a national committee and actually, you know, do what we weren't doing with Julian and work collectively to hit the KPIs of getting these two out of jail. Because it's really important, that's all I can say. But we do need to improve. We need to make improvements on where we were with getting Julian out of jail. And I think with more cooperation all right through, similar cooperation to what I'm speaking of now, Julian could have been released a lot earlier if that sort of behaviour was going on all over the world, where we had, you know, committees of people constantly organising leaflets and things. And I'll say this too, another problem is we have these leaflets here that, you know, we've all worked hard on them, and, you know, they're very specific. You know, there's a petition for David McBride. There's somewhere to donate to David McBride. There's a petition for Dan Duggan. There's somewhere to donate to Dan Duggan. There's a petition for Mai Lee, who's new here. She's one of our people now. There's a petition for Richard Boyle and donate to Richard Boyle. There's to send a letter to Trump regarding Julian being pardoned. There's information about Mary Kostakidis, who doesn't yet have a campaign. So, but we've actually organised it in an efficient way. We could be even more efficient, and, you know, we need to work out how to do this really, really well. And a lot of people are internet warriors, and they don't exactly understand that this is what we do. This is advertising space here. Look at this. This is an advertising area. We give this stuff out to people. And it's all very well to say, oh, I'm doing it online, but we came here every week to do this when in November 2019, and we're still here. And there's merit to it, because this is an advertising space. We are going to hit our KPIs on a national basis if we all, you know, have this more organised. We're going to get these guys released. We're going to stop Richard Boyle from being incarcerated as well, but only if we unite nationally, I think. I hope I'm making sense, and if I've said anything that offends anyone, I hope it doesn't come back in dispatches, but if it does, I'm apologetic in advance. Thank you.
Who are the other people still doing this?
Oh, well, I don't know. I've seen it on social media. You see, you know, you've seen people...
Right, the campaign.
Yeah, campaigning outside parliamentarians' offices or whatever. And I saw it, you know, for Dan Duggan and for David McBride and for Richard Boyle. They had signs about all those guys everywhere. So there are people who do it. And I think we should be more united, because we'll get more done that way.
Well, I think we need less people online and more people out in the street.
Well, maybe so. And the thing about online is people have filter bubbles with their own people, right? If we're giving stuff out to people on the street, what's actually happening is we're catching a wide audience, right, of people who aren't going to see it otherwise, because their social media is in so much of a filter. You know, the same goes for, you know, sending stuff out to rank and file political people. You can send it to people of great authority, even though they're just rank and file political people without a parliamentarian job. So sending stuff out to those people is important. We don't know who we're giving these to. One of these contacts could be absolute gold, and you know, that's what it's for. Thank you.
That's all right. Good.
Does that make sense to you? Yep. Okay.
Welcome to the 277th Julian Assange Sydney Town Hall gathering. We can all make good use of truthful information. On the other hand, if we believe lies, we are likely to be harmed. The COVID era was characterised by many lies. Unfortunately, many people believed many of those lies. and as a result, many were harmed. In contrast, a select group wasn't harmed because the lies supported them in gaining extra wealth and power. This small group of extremely wealthy people see nothing wrong with gaining wealth and power through the telling of lies. We can call this group of people the parasite class. This exceptionally powerful and wealthy class of people successfully extract its wealth from the labour of others. In the first 2 years of the COVID era, the world's 10 most wealthy people doubled their fortunes, while the incomes of 99% of people fell. This transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich relates to the possession of knowledge. The parasite class possesses a great deal of knowledge because it has created systems of surveillance that gather immense amounts of data. Julian Assange noted that, quote, "Knowledge has always flowed upwards to bishops and kings, not down to serfs and slaves," end quote. The internet, the smartphone, and machine learning are giving the parasite class vast amounts of information. The domestic political surveillance of the Stasi of communist East Germany pales in comparison. To overcome this extreme imbalance of power, we must somehow find ways to be better informed and at the same time prevent the parasite class from gaining access to our private information. We need to realise that successful social media influencers can only remain successful as long as they perform important roles for the parasite class. These roles include keeping conversations within a narrow spectrum of debate to ensure puppets of the parasite class, such as Anthony Albanese, Donald Trump, and Keir Starmer, are viewed as people who are independent actors fighting for our well-being. We need to realise that these political puppets only hold power over us if we give up our own power. If we can wake up to our own power and stop being directed by social media influencers or mainstream media, we will give ourselves a chance of shaping a world where government corruption is absent and our personal sovereignty is respected. We should not go along with what we are told as if it is true, unless we have sufficient evidence to back it up. We must learn to be better communicators. It may be somewhat pleasing to think that we know the truth. Knowing the truth is important for our survival, but if we don't actually know the truth, it is important to recognise that we don't actually know the truth. Mistaking lies for the truth is extremely detrimental to our well-being. The more we allow ourselves to be enslaved by lies, the more difficult it will be for us to overcome our slavery. The best time to begin working for the truth is right now. Join us here at Sydney Town Hall every Friday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. During winter, in a couple of weeks when we leave daylight saving behind, we'll be meeting 1 hour earlier from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. during the winter months. The Assange movement continues. Free, free, free the truth. Free, free, free the truth. Free, free, free the truth. Thank you. If anybody would like to come up and express any opinions regarding this matter of free speech, please, we have an open microphone. And you don't have to agree with us. We're happy to hear an opposing point of view. That's what free speech is about. Free speech is about standing up for the right to hear everybody have their say. So the microphone is open if anybody has something they'd like to get off their chest. Thank you.
Immediately preceding the hate speech bill was another farcical anti-Semitism crisis when the 4 girls were egged in Bondi. The media and the Israel lobby went into overdrive, calling it another act of terrorism, and the politicians got up in Parliament and said the same thing. An act of terrorism rather than a waste of good eggs. And hard on the heels in Parliament, we heard the calls for tougher terrorism laws. It soon became evident that the eggers were a couple of teenagers cavorting about in Mum's car in Bondi. And the victims of terror, these so-called victims, may not have even been Jewish. Don't let the facts get in the road of a good story. That's what happened.
What about this then? The alcohol-free zone. I haven't seen that before. Is that sign there because of us?
Alcohol-free zone.
Is it because of the Sydney Harbour Sea Monster?
Well, look, the Sydney Harbour Sea Monster has free speech, but the problem is that in order for it to be able to express itself, it needs 20 tons of vodka a day.
Look at the camera over there, pardon Julia, right? We love Julia.
I like Bob Marley, man, Bob Marley.
We love Julia.
Bob Marley.
In the paper as well. In the paper, yeah, Julia.
With its images,
Peace to Julia,
refugees,
So it expires the 21st of the 8th, 2028. So after that you can drink alcohol as you like. On the 21st of the 8th, 2028, the alcohol-free zone outside Sydney Town Hall expires. Can you explain that?
Well, that's because the Sydney Harbour Sea Monster will have consumed all the vodka by then, and there'll be no more alcohol left for anyone at that point in time.
Is that the last import of vodka?
I would say so, yeah. The
To
sea
this-
monster will have guzzled it all by then.
revolutionizing the way we see the world. For the first time in history, the people who are affected by history are its creators. And the other generations
We are all Assange.